the path, improving what I hear, because it's all about what you hear. Okay, it's not so much about the tools. The tools come when you can hear, and then you realize what tools you need. But first of all, you need to hear. So you already started the right thing. You're interested. You're studying. You want to learn more about mastering. So you already need to listen a lot. You need to. And one of the things is you start to improve your work, your room, your acoustics, how do you actually listen? Okay. Okay. So the first thing is, how do I get out of my laptop into the speakers? So I need some sort of interface between the laptop and the speakers. At first, you may just have headphones and your laptop. Okay. But then there's certain frequencies that you don't hear. There's certain things you hear differently. So when you apply your work, you only know how it sounds with headphones on. You don't know how it sounds outside, in the club, in a place. So you want to have speakers. You want to have something that represents the sound in a different way. So you need to control the volume. You need to have something that says, okay, I need to bring the volume up and down. Okay, this is the newest product from Dangerous Music. It's called the Dangerous Music D-Box Plus. And it can do everything that you see in all these other boxes. It's all pretty much built in here. So that's why I started with this first. So that's what you need in order to already get yourself into another world of listening to music and to work with music. And I'll show each step in a minute, okay? But most important is, how do I turn something up and down? And it starts already with the laptop or a mouse. When you close your eyes, listening to music, sometimes I close my eyes. And I'm not the only one, I know that. So the moment you have your mouse and the moment you want to move your fader and you close your eyes, I'm sure there's people that can do this very well, but that is the part that, in my opinion, you can never really get away with closing your eyes and being able to find a point, maybe let go, and then I don't need to open my eyes. I always find my volume control. And eventually I find a point where I like to listen the most. Okay? And that's why you need something outside of the box to control volume. The fader can never represent this because it's always changing with the material. If you get something loud, then it's loud. If you get something small, it's obviously small. But this always can find your reference level with it. Okay, and in order to put this on your speakers, what's inside? A DA converter. Okay, so there's basically the magic right there. I gave it away in the beginning of the workshop. A very good DA converter and volume control. Okay, so those two things, if you start with those two things, then everything else will fall into place later. Okay? Yeah. Good. Okay. So, a quick history about who is this company and what do they do. So behind this company is a man called Chris Muth. And there's usually always some legend about it or some story about it. And in his case, the person, we don't know a face, we can't give a face to it, built all the equipment for places like Masterdisc, Sterling Sound, the Hit Factory, Absolute Audio Mastering. These are places in the US that mastered some of the greatest hits that are out there. And somebody needed to build what? Volume control and a DA converter. Back in the days, not a DA converter, but pretty much now you need a DA converter to have music. Okay, but here is the riddle. That's the man. That's Chris Muth. Okay. Hi. Ciao. Oops. We'll go a little bit too fast. So that's actually in his living room, believe it or not, in his house. So in his house is a lathe. He actually cuts vinyl records in the house. And there you see also a mastering console. So he's not only designing the equipment, he's also working as an engineer and playing music, and it's part of this whole thing, you know. And that is pretty much everybody behind Dangerous Music has this connection to a working person in the industry. Okay, this is a typical studio, as I just said. In this case, it was in Masterdisk. And this has his name on it, Muse Audio. This was the traditional, the old equipment that he used to build for exactly those places before it became Dangerous Music. So, and now we can already switch to Pro Tools. So the example that I'm going to do today is stem mastering versus mastering. Do we all know what mastering is? I'm going to sort of, you want to go into it, you are definitely want to know it, and I would love to repeat it. Because also that the processes of engineering are changing over the years. Every process we do, just think about that all digital media didn't exist. So before that it was tape, and at one point somebody had to put the music that was recorded on tape to a vinyl disc, okay? And that was an engineer, and he was a mastering engineer that had only one job. He had to put the music from tape to vinyl. And there's some sort of there's knowledge. You have to have knowledge, because the vinyl actually has not as much dynamic as tape. It actually is the frequency range is not as wide as on tape. So somebody has to say, I need to cut here, I need to cut this, I need to make it small, I need to make it less sound good, and I put it on vinyl. So that was the guy's job. So then the CD came.
We've done a seminar about
the
vinyl.
whole, yeah?
Yeah.
And this was probably part of it too.
Yeah, it's a huge part of it, yes.
Yeah. So now it reversed. So suddenly now they started like, actually I have to tell a story real quick about from Vlado. Vlado Mella was originally working for Columbia Records in New York. He's doing this for 20 more years than me. He was one of the first ones who actually started to notice that in the process everybody gets a name. The guy who produced it, all the musicians got a name on the record. The guy who mixed it got a, but mastering, where? You know, he did not see anything on the vinyl for mastering. So he started to say, he went to the boss of Capitol or Columbia back then and said, put my name on the record. And he's like, no. And so he went back and he's like, okay. So he started actually to scribble his initials in the, don't know the name right now, but the dark part of the vinyl where there's no music. Okay, just did it on the first copy, and then they copied it. And so it's a real story, but I don't know what, you know, how deep it goes. So the whole thing reversed, and mastering became more and more an art, and more something that people recognized that we can actually do something in this process. We can actually improve the work of an engineer, of a mix engineer. So mastering is it's the final step of a recording and a mix. A mix. All the tracks have been recorded, and they are mixed together, and there is a stereo track. And the stereo track comes to somebody like me or a mastering engineer. And then it's about to decide, what can I do with this? How can I make this sound better? So somebody that wants to get into mastering, you know, really listening to music, knowing genres, that's really one of the biggest thing you want to do. You want to listen to and be able to hear what something lacks, you know, why is this mix sound like that and this mix sounds like this. And then at one point understand also the respect for that mix, because some mixes are actually really good. Okay, believe it or not. So then you have to be a little bit more gentle about it. So I'm going to always switch back and forth between it. So you have little bit of insight of the mastering, and then we go into the gear. I said earlier this is a complete system, and a complete system in this case of dangerous music consists out of a DA converter. It is something that can play back, in this case, 8 channels. Okay, so from the computer, from Pro Tools out, 8 channels going from here out. That's another 8 channels, that's 16 channels out, and they go in the summatore in this Dangerous 2 Bus Plus. So all 16 tracks are being mixed together to 2. Okay, and then there's an output control for the 2 tracks. And the 2 tracks then go into an analog to digital converter, into an A to D converter. So from here, the tracks go back into the computer. Okay, I can show you an example real quick. We hope it works this time. Yeah. So there's a few tracks playing back, okay? And we have the first 8 tracks playing on here. They're going into the summing mixer, and from here they're being back into the AD converter, and we see that coming back right here. Okay, and then I have to do is record. If I like what's happening, then I'm gonna go hit record. There's something here in the middle. We call that the liaison, and that is a bridge between something like an equalizer or something like a compressor. So equalizer is something, as you know, to bring in highs, bring in lows, cut frequencies, boost frequencies, and a compressor controls the dynamic of a song. Okay, so those are parts that are needed in every step of the process. You need them when you record, you need them when you mix, and you need them when you master. So this box actually brings in those into the chain to work with. So it's very easy because it has 6 insert points, and you can just simply say, I want this to be on insert 1, and I want that unit to be on insert 2. In my case, it's also very simple. I put this on insert 1, and I put this on insert 2. So 1 is the compressor, 2 is the EQ. And what's special about this now? So now, let's say we start today. We're not mastering, we're basically recording today. So here's a microphone. That's what I need to record music. And because my AD converter has 2 inputs, I can just simply switch to another input, and I can record my microphone. Now I'm saying, well, it doesn't sound so. Let's get it out for a minute. It needs some more volume. It needs some more dynamic control. So I can simply dial in the compressor. Can you just tap this, Frank, for me? You can sing in it too.
No, I can't.
But tapping is pretty good. That's your thing, right? Tapping is pretty good. Okay, and the compressor now, by just clicking this button, controls the microphone. You see how it now clips? And now I bring it back down. See how low it is now? You see this, right? Now I'm clipping. Now I'm going all the way down. Okay? And the same is with the EQ. So I can now also put an EQ in there and work on the vocal. Because we're not talking about recording today. We don't need to hear it. Okay? It's just that you understand, hey, I have a compressor, I have an EQ, and I want them. Thank you. That's great. I want to use them. What is the problem every time you let's just say you can only afford 1 EQ and 1 compressor, but you want to use them for everything. You want to use them for recording, you want to use them for mixing, and you want to use them for mastering. Well, this is what the liaison just showed you. I click this row, and it is on the microphone to work with. Now, I say, well, I'm done. I record it. I turn the microphone off. I don't need the microphone anymore. Somebody did repatch this wrong. But now I can actually say I would like the EQ. Sorry, I have to Now I can actually put the EQ and the compressor on my mix by simply putting them into this other path. Okay. So right now I use the compressor for the microphone. It's still hooked up, but magically it's now working for the mix that I'm playing. And because I'm switched from bus A, which is one bank of inserts, to bus B, to the other bank. So this makes this a very versatile patch bay, meaning you don't need patch bay. You need to do this, not with the liaison. It's just a click. And there's a relay behind it, a relay, so there's no quality loss. It's the same thing, okay? And there's 4 more inserts. I only have 2 more, but you can add another compressor, another EQ, as you wish. It also features something very nice between a flip, meaning it can change the order between compressor and EQ. So you can actually listen to what sounds better, first EQing, then compression, or first compression, then EQing. Good. Okay. But now we stay in the mastering and mixing world. So this is right, and the input is also right. Now, the first thing you need to do, if you're inside the box, if you only have your laptop computer or your desktop computer, do you care about calibration, yes or no? You do. And you too. Okay, what is calibration?
I can't explain.
Yeah, it's difficult because at the moment when you're inside the box, there is not much calibration because it's one system. It's entirely calibrated by by the designer or the software designer of the thing. But now we're talking, I want to use this EQ because I know it sounds good, so I would like to use this on my work. And the moment you go out, you need the DA converter and you need an AD converter. The analog, the digital music gets turned into analog and back into digital. And for that, we need calibration. And it's the number one step that a mastering studio or somebody that masters with analog gear needs to do. And there's a very easy way. Every software can do it by basically opening up a signal generator. And you see, you can change the frequency and you can change the... you can even sweep the frequencies. In this case, we really would like to just see if I send a tone at a certain volume, I want it to be back at the same volume, okay? And it should also sound the same, shouldn't change. So right now I'm sending 1000 hertz, 1 kilohertz at minus 14 dB, okay? And there's a little minus before it because in the digital world, 0 is the maximum, okay? Nothing goes above 0. It clips, it distorts. And so we always think about we're below it, because if we're at the top, we can't hear, we can't decide on anything. And it would be too loud for everything. So we're now sending a tone at minus 14. There it is, the nice tone. Okay, it's very nice. And we can already see on here that something is returning. Okay, so something is coming back. And a converter usually can be calibrated. It can be changed in dBs. And so does the convert 8. You have minus 14, minus 16, minus 18. Minus 14, minus 16, minus 18. And minus 14, minus 16, minus 18. Meaning you don't need a screwdriver. You don't need to open the box. You can just simply say, hey, I'd like to... Oh, it's this one. I'd like to change the calibration right on top of the unit. Like this. Okay, I still don't know what am I doing. I need to see what comes back. Okay, so here is my return. And I don't know if you can see it, but this here says minus 14. You see this? There's minus 14, a small number. Does this still work? The zoom thing? Yeah. Okay, that's too old school. So I'm sending minus 14 dB.
The calibration is being made between minus 18 to minus 12. What determines in what level should we make this calibration? Why? How can we choose this minus 18
Yeah.
or minus 14?
Okay. The most important rule, it has to be the same. Whatever goes out has to come back in. Okay? That's the only way how you can at first see if you're at the right level. And I'm going to answer the second part in a second. So right now, I have to turn this off. I have to bring this up. And giving that we are in a demo environment, we are here at minus 13.9, I let it go. At home, it is at minus 14.0.0.040. Okay. But this is very good for me because it's 0.1 dB and nobody can hear it. But now I see what goes out comes back in. And these are calibrated at minus 14, minus 14, minus 14. Dangerous Music makes this very easy, this process. But what if you don't have this? What if you have something else? Okay, so when you want to work in analog, you need to test the system before you start working, because otherwise you add gain or lose volume without knowing. To go back to the range, so there's a certain range that is needed, because if you are mixing, you have a lot more. You need a lot more headroom, because you're now adding channels: kick drum, snare drum, guitars, synths, vocals, and all that music together gets louder and louder and louder. So I go lower in my calibration. I go to minus 18. I do this here. If I click on here, what should it say now? If I go out minus 18 but go back in minus 14, who can do the math?
Don't look at me.
So it's off now. It says minus 10, okay? Because the 4 dB we're losing now because we're giving it more on the output or less on the output. That's so there's this off balance. If I bring this up to minus 18, everything is in sync again, and it's at minus 14. Okay? Keep that in mind, that you need. This is a part that you do it. If you know this from the beginning, then you don't ask yourself, okay? We can just stay in minus 18, which is fine. If I'm now in minus 14 sending, check in one more time, I'm still in minus 14, because the calibration is the same between the units. Okay, that's enough of that. So now we got a track that we're supposed to master. This is from DJ Manian. Thank you for letting me use your track. It's going to come out in the summer, so it's not out yet, but he said it's fine. I can use it. Okay. So let me make this a little bit bigger. So this is actually a very good volume mix. You can already tell it has room. I can work on it. Okay. And he said, I would like you to do a stem mastering for me. So we already know now what is the difference between mastering and stem mastering. Who has an idea?
Yes, mastering is a stereo track.
Mhm.
Stem mastering is some stereo track.
It's the entire song divided.
Divided by
To the stem,
Yeah.
the instrument, the drum, the bass,
Yep.
the keys.
Correct. Okay. So what would you prefer to work with stem mastering or with mastering?
I never had a stem mastering.
Just hypothetically, if we think about what's more interesting or appealing or more
I think
work?
Stem mastering is, I think, is something like mixing.
Ah, okay. So what's the big danger right now? So if you ask a mastering engineer, I would like you to do a stem mastering,
Yes.
then I could just, oh man, the bass sounds like crap. I'm going to change the bass. Oh, the drums sound like crap. I'm going to change those. I'm going to change this. I'm going to go change that. And that's the big danger, because either the guy is stupid for charging stem mastering while he's actually remixing it. He should communicate and say, do you want me to mix your record? Or he respects that the mix is actually final. Finalmente, it's done. It's great. Okay. So it takes a little bit time to understand that stem mastering is not mixing. You can touch everything, but do you have to, or should you? And that's the first rule. And so there's one trick to start your communication with your client, because I am not Lander, I am not an online solution. I actually think about my work, and that means I'm going to say to him, I'm going to do a stem mastering, but send me your mix first, and I'm going to master this in the first place. And if you like my work, if you like the mastering, then I'm going to do the stem mastering. What's the idea behind that? Frank, any idea?
I never had the stem mastering. I hate it.
Yeah, you hate it.
Because I mix.
Yeah, because you mix and then you feel, and it needs all these things, you know, and I gave up on mixing. So for me, it's like, you first have to understand what I do in mastering. If you appreciate that, if you like it, let's go into stem mastering. Because the guy approves, the guy or girl approves, hey, this sounds great, it sounds good, you're on the right track. So I don't have to think of the drums anymore. I don't have to, you know, I can think of how can I make the drums sound like my master in stereo, but now a little bit better? How can I take it to the next level? And this is what I did. So if we just have to think, we're doing it this way. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Oh no, it's great. I'm trying to be careful so it's not too loud. So we're listening to the mix. Okay, that's this top bar. And then I did a standard traditional master, meaning I used my chain in the system, and I gave this back to him, you know, and he said, great, that's what I like about it. Okay. So then we took it to the next level. And I said, okay, give me your stems. And now we have following stems. We see them over here. They are labeled drums, vocals, sub, synth, synth 2, main synth, and FX. So all together that sounds... They're all playing together. First of all, they should sound exactly like his mix. If that's not the case, then there's a problem. So that's the first thing you need to do. You need to first go ahead and take your mix and put that to the stems, and then compare the stems with the mix. So I'm actually switched. This is Pro Tools 11 native. So no input monitoring on the channel, which is very annoying, but you can do it with Alt and K. And without very critical listen, it was the same thing. And now you can start working. Because if the stems don't match the mix, then how can you work? How can you, again, start working on the single individual files, okay? So the idea of what can I do, how can I make something better sounding by doing stem mastering? And I went back to a technical aspect, not to a creative aspect, because then I'm again in the same boat as Frank, who said, I would like to mix it. I really don't want to master it for you, because you have so many options, you know. And it is true, I hear something and I instantly also get the idea of shall we... One moment, I'm gonna have to put these in solo in place. So you listen to one stem and you instantly think, oh, this could be a little bit more that, or it could be a little bit more this. So again, you need to find out what did you do in your mastering process that he liked, or he gives you a hint and just said, the kick, it really doesn't, it's not as pushing forward as I would like it to have. And that's some ideas that you can get and start working with it. So I thought, first of all, what does he not use in his case? Okay, he did not record with a band in a big place, in a big studio. He did not have an SSL console. He did not, he pretty much worked inside the box. Okay, and it's EDM in this case, it's electronic music, which is anyway coming out of the box. So how in the world do you give this some sort of a, how do you give it more life? How do you start to work with it? And so I said, okay, well, I can take the stems, and first of all, I can divide them up. I don't actually have to divide them up. They're already divided up. But I have an analog summing device. So what's the big thing about analog summing and digital summing? Dangerous Music was the first one to introduce the two-bus. It was the first summing device in its art, in its kind. And it happened around 2001, 2002 at Sterling Sound. Greg Kelby is a very famous mastering engineer. He's been doing this for a very long time. And back then, Pro Tools had the TDM interfaces, the black 882 and whatnot. So just at the beginning of converters, there were 16-bit, and him being a mastering engineer coming from vinyl and tape, every time it came out of this, he's like, I'm losing something. Something doesn't sound right. Okay, and then Chris Muth, he asked him, and I said, "What can you do? I have all these files here in Pro Tools, and they come out through the mix bus, and they don't sound right anymore." And that was the beginning of the two bus, which takes the DA converter and gives the DA converter less output, so you actually have the analog world to put it together. Okay, and that creates a different sound. And now going back to 2019, the DA converters are very, very good. Okay, or gotten a lot better. So the differences are much more subtle. You can't. It's not like a black and white like it used to be. You have to hear it. But so the first step is, well, I take his mix, and I'm gonna go separate it into the two bus, and without much thought to it, you can basically just play back. Let's get the bass off, and gotta go in. Okay, where is it now? Huh?
It's normal.
Oh, that's that. But I want to hear this. Not what I want. Very strange.
May I help as a support?
Yeah.
You just put an hand on your shoulder.
No. The analog output is somehow missing here in action. It's kind of strange.
This is not your standard setup, so
No, but
sometimes it's normal to get lost. Yes.
just another channel.
Just another channel.
We are open. See, we're wide open when we're coming out 7 and 8, and it's not playing back. Sort of weird. Okay, let's do this.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, no, now we lost this. See? Ah, come on. Here we are. Hold on. pre-roll at 5 minutes. That's not good. Sort of.
Okay, we need also
That's also gone.
our feet.
Yeah. So I have a feeling it's this what we don't want to do. We do that in a little break in a minute. Okay, so right now I'm basically took all the tracks and I separated to the tubas and okay. That's not all the tracks.
Okay.
There's still a problem.
Yes, because we
No, it's not.
don't have any audio in the console. Actually.
Yeah, that's sort of weird. All good. Just decided not to work. No, we just have 8 tracks and not all the 16 tracks.
No, but we
No, but it's
yeah, because
well, there's 2 problems actually.
yes,
It's not
yeah,
just one.
problems.
Okay, give me a minute.
That's why they call it dangerous music, basically.
Maybe. Let's see. That's the beauty about today. You can actually take the USB and plug it back in.
Plug it again. Questo è il bello della diretta. Non io. Però adesso sto dando.
No, ma lo fa per la nostra autostima, perché
Assolutamente. No, vabbè,
succede sempre.
è corretto, insomma, anche avere questi problemi per. Anche i ricchi piangono, e anche i migliori, anche i teutonici a volte.
So now we have the other one. Good. Now we have all of them,
Yeah, we all of them.
and we have the same. Look.
Yes, this is a prototype. We can say that it's a small, really small.
No, we can say it's
box.
okay.
Però non ho detto, come infatti non sono avessi detto niente. 2. 2.
Ah. It's
Grande Pro Tools.
so
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Okay, so I divided up all the tracks on the tubas, and there's 2 features on the tubas that I can use right away. They're called mono. So, mono. So what would I do with mono? What could I do? Huh?
Mono check.
No. This is not about checking anything anymore. This is about making something sound differently. And again, now we're in the analog world. And you have to understand when a computer puts something to the left and to the right, there's a processor behind it. It's zeros and one that figure out, let's do this here and let's do that there. And when they put it together, there's a processor that calculates, ooh, now I have one information and I need to put it together. In the analog world, that's not how it works. It's it's gain to gain. It's a mixing amp that does that, and that has a certain feel and sound to it. And in this case, it is about. If I describe it as how it sounds like is dead center, it's coming out to you. It's looking at you. And with the digital world, I don't get that same effect on it. So I use. He called the track drums up there. Okay, now we need to do that same trick again. Almost. I'm still here. Something else. Here, this guy. No. Okay. I will do it like this. So, this is the drum, which has mostly the kick drum in it. Okay. Okay, and so without even touching his music, his stuff, all I did is I took that sample and I put it in the middle. Okay.
The stereo drum track in a mono track.
Yeah, that's a mono track now. This comes out as mono. Okay, so in the case if there's more other instruments to it, you have to see how this affects the whole song, for example. Okay, if he would have given me only a kick drum, I would prefer it. With just the kick drum, it would be nice. With just a single bass, it would be very nice. There's actually something there's a vector scope plug. You can use that as a plugin or as a real thing, and it tells you exactly the information that you have in the stereo field if you're unsure about it. But it goes too deep. I'm gonna no. So, but you're absolutely right. So here, these effects, they're actually. Let me see one thing. I got it. Okay. If it's not crashing, then we're happy. Here it is. Haha. I don't work for these guys. It's free. So if you don't have this, you should write it down. Stereo tool from Flux. Doesn't cost anything. Exactly. I can recommend it. Very cool to have and to check what's going on. So, so now, that's the original sample. Okay. And if I look at this, it's this the cymbals, the clapping that comes through that is not in the middle, but the rest. Now it's center. Okay. You see that chuck, it's one line, and now it has a little bit more room. But I went for this, okay? Because I'm doing a trick later to get the stereo back.
Does it work only for channel 1 and 2?
Okay, thank you very much. So right now I'm only sending out channel 1 and 2.
Or?
It was
9,
my
10.
and you have 2 times the option of mono.
Mono.
So the idea is, we've learned this. The first tubas had 16 monos or 8 monos. And then who's using 8 monos? No, you don't. So we said, what do you use the mono for? Kick drum and maybe vocal.
Maybe, yeah, vocal.
And bass. Kick drum and bass. Okay. So this sits really good on the mono channel here. And he was lacking some more bottom end. Okay. And I'm like, what's boring? How would you add more bottom end to the kick? What would you do?
With the compressor,
Ah, okay.
Compressor?
Good.
Compressor and?
equalizer.
If you need both, yes. Just the compressor alone is difficult, but with the compressor and an EQ, you could do it, because you could tell the compressor only work in the range of the kick drum. Okay, most people think when it's about how can I add more. Yeah. Okay. How can I add more bass to the kick drum? You know. So, and again, I'm not mixing this record. I'm not the mix engineer. You know. So I'm first thinking, okay, he liked his kick. He liked what he did. You know, and by me just making what he seeks and trying to just add on his thing is something I used to do, but I don't do this anymore. I try to find other ways, especially in stem mastering, because you have stems and possibilities that you only can do in digital world. So let's forget about the EQ. Of course, it's not wrong. You can always do it. I'm just saying, in this case, I decided, well, why don't I make a copy of the track and use an EQ, and I cut everything that's on the top out, and I just added the same thing underneath it a little bit, because here's my thinking. My thinking was I don't have to go through a Pro Tools mix bus, and then I give it its own DA converter, its own output, so I let the analog world mix the two together, and this works. Sometimes it works great, sometimes you say no, let's not do it, but in this case it was a good idea to just combine them. So now I'm going to take I can take any other output. Let's say I take output 3 and 4. So now we have 3 and 4 coming in. This is still on mono. And here I go. Out. In. Out. In. And look at the fader. I decided to go at -4. That really, this is a copied of his track with taking all the frequency out, so I have a lot more freedom here. I can do a lot, and I'm not really changing his sound so much. I'm just helping it a little bit. Okay, one trick how you can work, and it worked. Okay, so let's see what else we have. Okay, so we have the vocals. The vocals I tend to do always at the very end, because the vocals would be the only thing when I get a mix to master, I get sometimes voc up and voc down mixes, which are the vocals at half a dB louder or less loud. Because usually when it is with vocals, that's sort of the most dominant thing about how loud does the vocal have to be. So I wait on that, and I start comparing again. I'd like the music to sit first a little bit. So I'm just going to pause this. Let me just remind you what I did here. Okay, so I added a little bit of top to the vocals. I'll show this to you in a second. The bass, if we listen to it, by the way, it's actually very interesting why I'm choosing certain EQs and doing certain things to it. I should have told you that this is the picture of the stem mastering rig, how I use it at my home. And it is fixed. Everything you see here is a choice that I've already made, regardless of what stem mastering project I do. So you see that here's the summing, and here's the 2 channels of the converters, okay? And then you see some equipment which can be patched in or can be used, but it doesn't have to be used. But I've chose these for many years to say, okay, I want a distressor for a kick drum if there is a kick drum, and I would like to work on a distressor format, or a transient designer, or this sort of tube sound to oops. Nope, we're still check crash test. But this is so that you understand a little bit how I get to certain sounds, because you let a track play and you use your equipment that you know, and then you decide, yes, okay, I like that. And here it is more of a plug-in choice, because I don't have my system here. So this is why on the bass there is this SPL harmonics saturated, because on the original one I used the harmonic culture to add some crunch on the bass. Yeah. So on this track, so it really was, I think it's working right now. Okay. Again, I didn't want to change the frequency of it. I just wanted to see how can I make it more audible in the master. Because when I did the stereo mix, I was like looking for the bass. Where is it? How can no. And now I have it. And all I do is I add a little bit of and maybe this is more now than I did in the original version, but to show you the idea behind it. Okay, so now it's getting interesting because we're coming to channels 13, 14, 15, and 16. Channels, let me put up a picture so you see this in big. Okay, so we have 3 effects that come with the Tubas Plus. They're already built in, and those are somewhat in. They're mastering grade, meaning they're not like a guitar pedal, where it's like instantly. So they're much more subtle and much more something I can create sound and work with music a little bit. So the first one is harmonics. So without getting too technical, but it's basically the circuitry is a parallel path that adds the circuitry to the original sound. So it's not going through something and then completely getting changed, because that wouldn't be mastering. You would, unless you, it would be kind of hard. You would like it to just add as an effect. The same is with the second one, which is a parallel limiter. It's in the word parallel limiter. Okay. There you.
Because it's written there.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Again, a limiter. Do everybody knows what a limiter does?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Tell me. What is a limiter?
Like compressor, but with the ratio infinite.
That's what they taught you at school. And what is it? I know that's what they teach. I went to the school.
All the frequencies.
No.
That's just the wrong word.
It's just the wrong word. It's not the
Peaks.
frequencies.
Very good. A limiter is supposed to set a point of no going over. That's a limiter. Okay. Every limiter is a compressor.
Yes.
Because or the other way around.
Or
But
the other way around, yes.
but it really is depending on the on how you set the compressor. So you can set a compressor if you turn it all the way up. The ratio, if there's nothing, if the compressor doesn't have this nice slope anymore, if it has a cluck, that's when you start to limit the signal. And usually when you limit more than peaks, it sounds, you hear it. It actually goes into this mode where it cuts off, and you have this kind of stuff. So
Natural.
yeah, unnatural. Yes, but a limiter was always very much needed for broadcast. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
broadcasting, yes.
how it basically got, because of the antennas.
Yes,
We
but
need-
I think that all compressors originally were limited,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah,
It
that's
was a limiter, and then they
Yeah.
decided to use it also in
in an artistic way,
way. Yeah.
which unfortunately most of the times back in the days with the big studios, then none of that was needed, because the band could play. They could actually play. Okay, so the paralimiter now, that's why this is so important, that it's parallel. It's the same signal. So I have one signal goes through the bus, and I'm going to show you this on another. I'm going to show you these effects on another track. Okay, scusa, I have to import this real quick. Oh no, it's there. I forgot. So I just grabbed some more tracks over. It's completely different music and a little bit easier to hear what they do. So let's go here. Let's go to 15, 16. So that's another drum stem we're listening to. And I'm on 15/16 now. Okay? And now I have two options. I chose drums because I would like you to show the paralimiter with it. So now that the paralimiter takes the drums, puts it in another path limiter, and mixes it back together with the thing. It's so easy to hear because you listen to the decay, gets all the and then you find the right point. Where do you want that to sit? It's very common, as you know, in mixing. You know, you change with a compressor. You change the room sound of a live drum kit. That's how I enjoy it the most. And then in electronic music, it becomes a little bit different. It becomes more of you can use it anywhere. You know.
It's a VCA limiter. It's VCA.
Harmonics going back one. Here you hear it. This is very subtle to hear, the harmonics on it, because it's the same tones as overtones in the circuitry. It's not as easy to hear. But on the keys, I thought I heard it pretty good. So same channel. And now you gotta try to hear what's happening above. Okay. And then the last was a built-in transformer. So there's an actual, like in old consoles or in consoles, they have transformers on the output. There's one here to choose and to dial in as much and as little as you want. Okay, and that's for your color. That's for creating color and distortion. And it's also good on this track. It's full on, okay? So it on any piano or even a string, you hear it instantly getting into this crunch, but there's a very sweet spot. And that's something you can now choose. So that's when the overtones and everything sort of melts together and you get some sort of a little bit of a glue happening, and you can now dial into exactly where you want that in your mix. So that's another tool that you have there that may work for something like in my particular case of stem mastering. Those are exactly the things I'm looking for without again remixing the record. But there the enhancement is sort of built in and very easy for me to access. So which one of those did I choose? On this case, I had the vocals on the harmonics on the vocals, although they don't add much on it. And I had on 15/16 the idea to bring the whole thing to actually make it more dense, the entire mix. So what I did is I took the same his mix, I just put it in there, and I decided, okay, let's take this out. And then I... Uh-oh. What's that? Oh. Okay. And I dialed it all the way down. So you see the fader here is pretty much at minus 30. Okay. And I use the paralimiter. Now we're getting back what we were missing to that, you know, that the percussion is coming back. It's still stereo. So, and when you open it up, uh-oh, somebody choking? That's a Pro Tools glitch again. Yeah, I hate to say it, but we're missing those channels again. Huh. Well, it's the same problem actually as
So you
before.
want my hand on your shoulder?
Yeah,
Again?
we can try. That
Maybe you
helps.
can try, yes.
See, there's also two conduit 8s.
Try to maybe the buffer sides.
I think it's
Just a-
more of a USB.
No, we had, maybe I should told you, we had a buffer size problem at the end, at the beginning. No, it's already...
It's already all the way
no,
up.
It's already all the way, yeah.
I know.
So,
Let's try something else, which may not like it. But that's awesome. What is this? I mean, you kidding me? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that was not a good choice.
il 7 di giugno è la giornata mondiale del glitch, quindi...
A little glitch.
Assolutamente vabbè, è difficile, abbiamo fatto un setup al volo di quello che c'è nel suo studio qua in un paio d'ore.
Yeah, I mean, yes. So, let's...
Non è normale, ma è probabile, insomma, che succedano dei problemi, che ci siano dei problemi.
Let's see. Maybe it was as quick as it goes as quick as just before. Hold the hand. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Pop.
And? No?
Nope. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Why? Because it's just shouldn't happen. Should not happen.
One, two, three. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
2, 1.
And they're all there. Now Pro Tools is not happy, of course.
No.
Nope. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Nope. Still not happy.
Still not happy, but I'm pretty confident.
Ah! Yeah. Yes.
Mein
yes,
liebe
yes.
Damen und Herren, wunderbar.
Yes.
You can,
Grazie. Dankeschön.
Dankeschön. Thanks to you.
Okay, so thanks for the hand. That helped.
Fai anche il tedesco, Diego.
Quelli sono i basic.
So now I need to just check where the start point is here. 927 448 7448.
Be the one, be my lover, you're
So
my
now-
number one.
Everything is in place.
Be the one I need, my devotion and the air I breathe. So let me be the one for you. I wanna be the one for you. Be the one for you. I wanna
Okay,
be
so
the
you saw
one
that
for you.
by applying very little tricks over the analog summing, I've already started to. Yeah, please.
Is on channel 15 and 16. You have his original master.
That's what we were listening to, actually. Thank you for reminding me. That's the original mix.
That's the original mix.
But it is.
It's blend in.
It's blend in. So without, I mean with.
Transformer, I guess.
Yeah, let me take out. Let me take out the effects because they're also going through there, which we don't want.
Be the one, be my lover, yeah.
So, and I'm now dialing it back in. Okay. No, wait a second. It's. That's quite interesting.
Maybe it's,
Yeah, something is a little bit.
yeah, perhaps
It
it's
could-
the same.
It could be the drift. Actually,
It's the same input problem. Maybe.
yeah. No, you're absolutely right. When in input, I figured it out now, and this is something I haven't tested. When in input monitoring, which you do with applique on thing,
Yeah.
that's when it happens, and that's why it happens always so randomly. Yeah.
That's the point. I guess also.
I don't know how to quickly.
Address it. Yes, I can understand, but
This should all not matter. But now they're all gone again. That's completely insane. Why? How that bug can hear? How that can take off the machine? You know?
but anyway. We have also these AD.
Huh?
The AD issues that we had before.
No, you
Oh,
see,
no, okay.
you see that coming back. But I have a very quick trick for this. Because I would like to finish this on a.
Way. No?
Yeah, That's the good thing if you have two converters. You just do an 8-channel summing, and that's actually pretty good that we're going there, because it. I'm going to show you something with the debugs in a second. So back here. Oh, wow.
It's even more interesting now.
It's. Okay. That is definitely
okay.
no. There's some weird. Okay.
Okay.
Yep. I can. 27.
Okay.
Okay.
So now you swap to the. No, we're still on the.
Yeah.
On the bus.
It's just this one track here that goes on another.
On the wrong output.
Yeah.
Be my lover, you're my number one. Be
Okay. So. Yeah, there's still a problem with the USB. It's still coming back in a different way. So, but my point is, these 8 channels, they can be switched between any of the inputs. So, I can go with this one first, or then with the other one second, onto the two bus.
Swap them.
Yeah, but there's still this sort of thing. But going back to 8 channels, so the next option is going back to the Dbox Plus that I already mentioned as the number one thing you need as far as a monitor controller, something that can bring up volume and can do a DA conversion. It also can do 8 channels of summing. So in this case, it has it built in. So that everybody sees it. Okay, so now we basically have a volume controller plus a summing section. 7 and 8 can be the mono. Okay, so you can do the same thing with the kick drum or a bass drum, and then you have 6 more channels to work with, and you have an output trim. And that's another important thing, and I think we can still somehow manage to show that, even though the USB, because the whole thing needs a restart, but we don't have to hear it as much. So on the output level, there's 2 more features that are really important, especially if I do the stem mastering. Number one is I can now attach an external insert. So now I can actually add a compressor and I can add an EQ. Just like I would with a normal stereo mastering track, but now they're prepared for me and I do it at this stage. Okay, so I have an external insert and I have an output level trim, which is the same as up here. And that's another very important key function, because nowadays the mastering has to be as loud as possible. You want to make the track loud. So one of the things you need to do is you need to work with your AD converter. So you see how this represents your stereo track coming back into the computer, and you have the 0 is marked up here, and you see the green LED. And with the more as I add here, at one point they turn red, but it shows you exactly how much space you have before they actually peak. And this is actually a real peak. That's 3 milliseconds over, 3 samples over. Not milliseconds, 3 samples. And you can go all the way up to here without harming the signal in any way. But that's why that is so important. And again, if you're here, and as far as sound design, speaking about our limiter, so now we're clipping. No gain. So now I put the compressor in and see what happens. Okay. So now I can drop the volume with my compressor. I open it up. I'm peaking. And now I'm not using any gain on the compressor. I'm only dialing down the threshold. If I want it to be more extreme, I can turn up the ratio. But the threshold defines this level here. And that's another thing in mastering where I create. Okay. Let's do a little restart on this.
Yes.
To give it a little a break.
I'm a fan of Alban Otto, so I have no problem with glitch.
But so again, if you remember what I said, every part plays a role in the system, in the hybrid system, and everything has its place, and it works together. And you basically tune into the fine spot, in the fine region in mastering. Okay, so you need in between the output and the summing, and back into the system. You're starting to find tools that do certain jobs, and they have a sweet spot. They're not so much anymore I can do it all. Okay, there are certain. That's why in a mastering studio, they have lots of compressors and they have lots of EQs, because they know already that certain things sound very good on something, but not on. Yeah, we can try it. I mean, I'm gonna talk about the D-Box Plus one more time. I'm going to show it here. So we had the volume control over here, the summing section with 8 channels, sub D, and then we have 2 selector fields. One is for your control room, so what we hear here, and the other one is for your headphones. And this is an iPad, and it's a Bluetooth controllable system, so you can actually do this. It's almost like a free remote. You can use your phone, you can use the iPad, and you can select, you hear the relay, different inputs for your control room, and different inputs for what the musician hears or the artist, or that's in there. Now, what are the 5 inputs? I have an analog stereo input, the summing input, which comes from here, from the summing, from the 8-channel summing. Then I have Bluetooth audio, so you don't need any more cables. Somebody walks in and says, hey, can you play my song? And just connect to the device. And then you have a USB that's in the back for playback, and an AES SPDIF, which is a digital signal that can come from a converter like we were listening to, or anything else. And important is that we can both do different things. Me as an engineer, and the artist who's inside, or whoever wants to hear with headphones. On the speaker section, you have 3 selectable speakers, or if you don't have 3 speakers, but maybe a subwoofer, you can have a subwoofer that you can control from your iPad as well. So this is the volume. You have a dim, or you have a reference level. that you can also set to say, oh, I want to start my day incoming, and this is my perfect volume to hear. Then you can do that as well. Here's your mono for 7 and 8. And line out. Very important for somebody like me. This would make this device something I really want, because I can use the DA converter and send it into my mastering chain, into my mixing chain, by selecting what the line out follows, whether it follows the control room or the headphone. And finally, you can control the talkback from here. And that's not it. You can actually use the microphone in the iPad as your remote, as your talkback.
As a talkback.
You can,
and you can also
we can
shoot photo with the iPad and watch Netflix. And okay, we have our
I think it's all working again. It's I don't know what it is. I think it's this Pro Tools version, which I just downloaded it for this thing.
Let's try this. Sorry. It is some and.
So we are on either here.
Okay.
It still does this.
No.
Still has some track coming in from. Yeah, maybe it's on this. Maybe it's on this particular here. There's something wrong with the track. That's why you have this delay always in it. Yeah. Okay. But this is good. This is good. Yeah. Did anybody? No. No. You can have it. Okay, so please, I have not even asked. Do we have questions for? Yes, please.
Yes.
And let's take the time for that.
Until now, my philosophy is to be very simple. Less machines as possible. So when I record a violin, it must be a violin. When I record a flute, must be
yes,
a flute.
See.
So my sound channel, my chain is very simple. Good microphones, good cables, good preamplifiers, good RMA, good Genelex.
What was after the mic pre? After the preamplifier.
Dopo sì.
Dopo di preamplifier.
Dopo l'amplificatore cosa utilizza?
RME.
Convertitore.
Convertitore.
The converter.
The converter is inside my. So it's all. My clients said that are very happy with my sound, but I can't evaluate how much with this system I may increase my level.
Okay,
it's
so
very difficult to evaluate.
Yeah, of course. And you have a very specific need, and now let's go. Your recording side, you go somewhere, or is it in your house where you record the violin?
No.
You go into
I go where
the client
is very
or
good.
the video acoustic is good. And then you record on a laptop. You take it home.
I have different systems because I have at the same time laptops, recorders, high quality recorders, and so on. Because if one system don't go because I am live,
like here,
I have the reserve. So.
Okay, but that I understand. You go somewhere, you record, and then you go home.
I do location recording.
Yeah, okay, good. You go home, and how is your setup at home?
In my home,
yes.
I have the setup as I said you. So
I have just the speaker basically. The converters again.
How do you listen? Okay, good.
RME
and
a converter,
a computer. So
okay,
that's all. Good cables, good.
And do you need to
great investments?
I know. Do you need to work with the music?
Yes.
I mean, do you edit?
Very delicate because classical music is. I have to push to. It's little nuance.
It's very clear how you can improve it. It's your DA and AD converter.
Yes, maybe.
Okay.
But I have not tested the
and also you need to test that And you can do it two ways. You can test only the AD side. How many channels do you record maximum?
16.
That many?
Yes.
Okay.
16.
Okay.
Yeah.
So stick with the RME, or Diego can tell you something else. And then on the playback side, you go with your software, you play back. And how do you turn up and down? What's your volume control?
I have the RME control.
Okay.
And I have my very delicate use of plugins, waves plugins that I like very much.
Perfect.
3.
Very perfect.
That's all.
I think the first thing you need to do is listen to another DA converter.
Okay.
Something that is only 2 channels for playback. If you want to try something from Dangerous, for example, it is... I don't have it here today, but I'm going to show you.
For example.
Per esempio, you see.
For example.
Siamo qui per...
It's not the only one. There's many others. Allora, the top one. Okay, this one. So it's 2 channels from your computer, USB, AES. You can go AES via RME, or you can go USB. And here's your volume control,
Yes.
Yes, this is
an analog volume control, better than the one on the RME. So that's 1 point, and the DA converter is better. And that's probably the first thing you can hear. That's the first difference you can hear. And everything else is, yeah. I mean, because you're not mixing, you don't need more outputs. You know, this is more for a mix of a band or music that has more than one violin, or more than an orchestra that is a fixed live set that is recorded, you know. Yeah. And the moment the music is for classical music, I mean, I've done that a lot too in Cambridge. I used to live in Boston, and I did a lot of people from MIT and from Cambridge that I recorded. I didn't do exactly like you. 2 microphones, mic pre.
US, yes.
Yeah, Cambridge, US.
And the mic pre, what kind of mic pre? Mic pre.
I have DAW
Yeah.
electronics
Okay.
and other high quality.
Same, okay.
I mean, that's another thing where,
All classical music.
Yeah.
Esterni alla scheda audio.
Yes.
Sì.
Yes.
Okay.
and that would be my other idea, to try different mic pre's and microphones, because there's so many good microphones, you know. But please, we can arrange it where you can actually try, because that is the biggest thing. Think about this way. The RME has 16 outputs, 16 inputs, volume control. It can do everything. Like, it can do so much. And how much is it? How much was it about? The RME.
Quanto costa?
2.300 euro.
Okay. Do a
2,300.
Okay. So in this one is also 2,300, but it does one thing. It does more, but
No, yes,
yeah. And so and I think that's
technology goes.
right. No, it's the concentration. That's the same I have with an Apollo. I hope maybe we should turn it off now. But no, you get so much. I mean, you get plugins, you get volume control, you get inputs, outputs. Yeah. So
But if you mix in the box, why you need a DA converter?
what are your ears? Are your ears digital?
Only for my ears.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Only for your ears. If we were
Not for the mix
No.
itself.
No.
No.
I mean, it's
Because
to,
I listen
to,
better.
to listen in a proper way, yes, in a better way, let's say.
the DA converter you always will need. There are digital speakers, but then the DA converter is inside the speaker, so you cannot get away with coming out of your
Anyway,
computer.
talking about the Apollo, as you say, I mean, I think that every converter fit a specific purpose and market. So it really depends on what kind of music you are in,
Right.
and what kind of result you want to achieve time
absolutely.
by time. So I think that there is space for everybody, every producer, and I think that in this case, since listening it's become really critical, because it's like everything. Having a good DA converter is it's a good point of start.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to start.
Yes.
And also I think it's a good way to start how you know on the microphone and the mic pre side, especially for what you do. But because you take so much value into how you record, then you should take the same approach on how you listen back to it.
Yes.
And yeah, and this is what I said in the studio when you start to. I've used a lot of different converters. I've tried many. I've listened to what I prefer. I have more than one converter because I even sometimes feel I have to go to another converter to find the sound that I'm looking for. Thank you. More questions?
More questions?
The three flowers you have the harmonic distortion.
Harmonic, paralimiter, and transformer.
They work on the output.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or
Only-
no, you have you can choose them on the stereo output, 1, 2, 3 as you want, or you can
specific check.
yeah
Ah,
specific channel 13, 14, 15, 16
Deluxe.
only.
Yes.
only.
Okay.
Because it's an analog circuitry, you can only use it one time,
Yes.
and you have to choose. You have to choose wisely where to use it. But the AD converter, for example, on the bottom, it has another transformer, a different transformer built in, and you can also dial it in. So there's another flavor we put in here. Yeah. Anything else? Do you have a question? You brought your car, right? You like Makina?
Yeah.
Okay, then.
Deal.
Deal done. No, so to finalize it, it is of course possible. It is possible.
Yes.
I thought that was a great.
Bundle.
It's a great bundle
Yes.
from a competitor, not from Funky Junk. From a
Buy
competitor.
from Please.
It's sweet water, but the idea is it is. Forgive me for saying that it is not expensive. If you realize that building an entire studio with the options of what used to be possible, then it's only a fraction of what it would cost if you try it a different route in a different way. But it's again, it's steps and steps, you know.
Steps and steps, yes.
Like always, and I always have, especially for you because you start and you know, I would
Student, yes.
I would always recommend to rather have one good thing than 4 or 5 cheap things. You know, because I made that mistake. I mean, with my band, I used to start buying, and I did not go to any college yet, and so I bought lots of microphones and mixers and all this kind of stuff. And at one point, it's like,
Yeah.
I need to change it.
To resales because
Yeah.
drop value immediately, basically. Anyway.
So I wanted to blah 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 blah. blah. Yeah, I'm finished. I would like to just tell everybody that they can contact me.
Yes.
You want me to do it still live? And
Yeah, we still live and
Good.
then I will swap to Italian because it's
please.
l'altro.
La-
Quindi, thank you Stefan, thank you so much, thank you
Piacere.
for everything.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you. Sorry for the problems.
Abbiamo avuto un sacco di problemi, we have a lot of problem, abbiamo avuto un sacco di problemi e ci scusiamo, probabilmente abbiamo perso anche l'intro, quindi come ho detto all'inizio Stefan è la terza volta che viene a trovarci, speriamo che ci sia la quarta, speriamo che la quarta sia meno problematica di quella che è stata oggi. Poi ripeto, a me piace la glitch music, quindi io sono felicissimo di come è andata, per me è andata benissimo, anzi meglio di così non poteva andare. Grazie per essere venuti, scusiamo veramente Abbiamo fatto sempre un setup, è sempre molto a tempi stretti, e il suo setup che hai nel suo studio chiaramente è fisso, è funzionale.
Rodatissimo.
Esatto, è rodatissimo, qua invece è sempre un po' improvvisato e spesso capita col digitale purtroppo che qualche problemino succeda. Poi capitava anche con l'analogico e a volte i difetti venivano esaltati come pregi. Col digitale il difetto è
Sì.
Rimane bello detto.
glitch. Poi c'è chi
Glitch,
piace come me,
glitch.
però quello è una forma di feticismo, quindi è
Maybe
colpa
we-
mia in realtà, sono io quello
we-
fallato.
We should have used your newest Pro Tools. That's for sure, yeah.
Next time.
Next time.
So, next time, so you're gonna come back next time.
Sure, sure.
Ok,
I said it, yes. Certo.
È una promessa.
Certo.
Grazie.
Grazie.
Thanks again.
And again, sorry for the weird sounds. I have some cards I can give you.
Some cards.
Some cards where you can reach me if you have. Yeah. Where is it? Oh, here.
Concludere
Whoever wants,
il cappellino.
you can.
Ok.
That's the main price.
Non so se siamo ancora online, però grazie a tutti, arrivederci alla prossima. Ciao.
No, please, if you have a question about mastering, please contact me. If you're wondering why this says Swan on here, you can actually, scusa,